As our world has changed, so too have our use cases of technology and the way it has impacted our lives. With the focus on real challenges and future technology innovations, the Economic Times presents Reimagining Tech, a platform bringing industry leaders together to highlight the new growth paradigms brought on by agri-tech advances and automation in sales. With great minds from sales and marketing focusing on automation in sales, the series commenced with a panel of experts sharing their insights on building and managing a productive remote sales team.
Devendra, you are running two large businesses on the format of Nature's Basket and Spencer's. So, how important do you think is physical presence? These uncertain times have taken that away to a large extent.
I think there's a dramatic change the way we communicate with everybody. The way you motivate your teams, the way you manage your e-town halls now versus town halls, which we used to have once in 15 days. And now you have a lot of web meetings. I think the importance of physical presence can't be denied. And I'm sure sometime we'll be back. And that completely remains relevant. But yes, throughout the customer's journey, if you notice, especially for us, like we are an omni-channel company, you can reach us through an app or come to the store. I think many business decisions now, there's a lot of interactions have digital touch points. And some may require physical presence and some may not.
But Anupriya, you are in an industry where there is typically no physical delivery. It's creativity, it's services, it's knowledge. How are you dealing with this current situation and how are things shaping up for you and your agency?
For us, the key input for our business actually is talent. And hence, it's very important for us to keep our talent very motivated and talent very excited. We ensure that we have a lot of connect. As I said, talent is very important for us. We are not creating products. We are creating ideas and so. In that, we have tried to have like constant team meets, check-ins on people, town halls. We have continued with cascading of strategy, sharing of what are the goals, how is the organization doing, plus a lot of fun events, learning and development. So there is a full calendar on learning and development. There is a full calendar on training. And there are a lot of fun events like open mics and all of that, just to ensure that people feel connected and feel that we are all there for each other.
That brings me to Tapan now. In the current environment, how do you address this challenge in terms of sales of insurance, specifically and especially when physical proximities are now zero and everything has to be done remotely? So how do you manage such a large organization remotely and you ensure that sales are happening on a continuous basis?
We were digitally very ready for it, and we had all the tools in place. COVID was the biggest transformer for us. Most of my agents were able to move digitally. The customers were able to access and buy policies on WhatsApp. Claims were settled on the spot by customers themselves. So the tools were ready. You'll be happy to note that we issued 25 lakh policies in the lockdown period, and we settled 17 lakh claims. The transition was very, very smooth. And I was delighted. Something which I have been pushing so aggressively for 1 year, adoption should happened overnight. Sales guy, all the life, they thrived on meeting people, talking to people, having a cup of tea together, the enthusiasm, the empathy, the energy. How do you bring it on a screen is the biggest challenge, because that's the next phase.
Dinesh, so as a leader, what are the challenges we face as a leaders, and how are we setting benchmarks for the teams to then follow?
So one is that right from third day of lockdown, we started engaging our teams across the country in terms of learning. And this is learning, not only the technical learning, but things like taking up a management book and talking about it. Because we realize that it's very important for us to keep them engaged, and that will keep up the motivation. For us, what we have done in this past 8 weeks, I think will continue.
So Mr. Kishan, what are your views?
As a technology company, for us, we have been having this flexibility of having to operate work from anywhere all the time. We will continue to have this opportunity where this time will accelerate a lot of the adoption of technology. I do not think it will get to a point where this will lead us to individuals becoming lazy. It's about leveraging technology to become more efficient. I think we will adapt to that for the current time period, but as the times improve, I'm sure people would want to go back to better times as well. Nobody wants COVID to stay here for long with vaccine or without vaccine, but you would want to operate in a different way.
So my sincere thanks to all the panelists who've taken their time out. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Last 75 days has been a revelation for most industries, for most companies, for most economies. We are living in a world which is unprecedented. Nobody could predict it. Nobody knew how to tackle it. While we are still trying to figure out what future lies ahead of us, but there are a few macro trends which is very, very clear, even at the early stage. I think the most important thing for every industry and organization is this decade is going to be about experience economy. How companies, how industries are going to manage all their stakeholders in this new economy, in this new world, is going to be the key differentiators between winners and losers. For the last few years, everybody has talked about digitization, digital transformation, and things like that. I'm sure each one of us have experienced this more than ever in the last 70 days, world over, in every economy, in every market, in every company. Now, the key learning from this, you have to think through, is it enough to do a lift and shift, or is it also an opportunity to look at changing business model to make a truly transformation initiative? Industries, organization, which take this moment not just to brace themselves for the short term, but prepare for the midterm to the long term by relooking at the business models, by reimagining their businesses, by leveraging technology, not just to improve efficiency and reduce cost, but also to lead to a transformation, also to lead to a business model which is truly differentiated, are the ones which will thrive and win in this century, in this decade.
Now, while countries across the world are beginning to open up in phases, the fact is that your world has changed. And in this new world, all these companies that operate in these environments need to adapt to the new realities. Now, companies of all sizes are becoming increasingly reliant on digital services to access information, deliver services, manage purchases online, stay connected with their employees, customers, and communities, and at the same time carry out their business with as little disruption as possible. We've spoken to many CEOs, and what we are hearing from them is that they are looking to digitally transform their businesses to survive. And they realize that this has to be done at speed and at scale, especially in the context of India. We are now entering what we call as a digital imperative, where brands who embrace digital and direct to consumer approaches will not just survive through the crisis, but also invariably they will set themselves up for success when the economy starts to reopen. There is a huge demand for services that facilitate digital ways of working that continues to rise, technologies that have a responsibility to support this demand. And we also know that at the same time, there are new jobs that are getting created. While there will be some old ways of working that will change, there are some completely new jobs that will get created in this new digital world. What that will also mean is that you have to address that skill gap, right? You have to very rapidly skill your employees. You have to very rapidly change the way your ecosystem, your dealers, everybody is engaging with the customers. So that reskilling has become a very, very large priority. The onus is now on the businesses to ensure both that the companies, they are able to change around their consumers. They are able to change their business processes to engage with these consumers. And at the same time, they need to work with their employees to be ready for the new tomorrow.
Considering current pandemic scenario and its after effects, what we feel as a strategic consulting firm with a focus on EPM and analytic solution regarding future industry trends over next decade, that there are many factors which are the discussion points nowadays, but we would like to pick up top 3 key factors around technology space. Number 1 is an agile and resilience planning and analytics system for more than ever continuously optimize business performance, real-time forecasting and scenario management need. Second is AI and ML technologies with NLP process, which is natural language processing. This is the key driving force behind many such trends, and its increasing ability to learn and act intelligently allow machines to understand human language, how human interacts with machine, and this will absolutely transform the world around us. And the third is blockchain and distributed ledger technologies, with super secure method of storing, authenticating and protecting data could revolutionize many aspects of business, particularly when it comes to trusted transaction.
In India, we have a huge shortage of professional experts across many sectors. It is equally challenging for government to solve this shortage problem in near future. Fortunately, this crisis has brought in a much needed inflection point where technology can help augment these experts and help solve the long standing problems of this country. Three key areas where technology has played the role of an enabler. The first one is healthcare. Telehealth solutions have been there for ages, but the way these solutions have helped in this crisis, it is phenomenal. It was great to see how large hospitals are leveraging tele-ICU solutions to provide remote critical care to patients throughout the country. Second area would be education. Right from a 60-year-old military school, an all-girls school in a rural Karnataka, right to an individual student learning in a metro city, all have adopted digital in the today's crisis. Third area would be government ecosystem. The first wave of technology has brought in more transparency and efficiency in the government functioning. The next wave should be to solve the access problem of this country.
Welcome back. We now bring you Agri-Tech, a platform for agriculture stakeholders to understand the growing elements of technology and their applications in crisis and risk mitigation. With that in mind, Kailash Chaudhary, Minister of State for Agriculture, Cooperation and Farmers Welfare, Government of India, speaks about reimagining agribusiness in India.
आज विश्व पूरा कोरोना जैसी महामारी से जूझ रहा है। देश की अगर अर्थव्यवस्था को बचाना है तो भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था में सबसे बड़ा योगदान अगर किसी का हो सकता है तो वो एग्रीकल्चर का हो सकता है। एग्रीकल्चर एक ऐसा सेक्टर है जिसको देश की आर्थिक स्थिति को मजबूत करने के लिए, और प्रधानमंत्री जी का जो विजन है कि हमारे आने वाले टाइम के अंदर भारत को 5 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमिक्स तक अगर पहुंचाना है तो एग्रीकल्चर का बहुत बड़ा रोल हो सकता है। तो इसके लिए भारत सरकार ने जो इस लॉकडाउन के दौरान जो हमारे सामने चुनौती थी, इस चुनौती के अंदर कई ऐसे फैसले लिए जो आने वाले टाइम के अंदर किसान के लिए गेम चेंज होगा। प्रधानमंत्री जी माननीय नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने सबसे बड़ा एक फैसला जो किसानों को लिए 1 लाख करोड़ का आर्थिक पैकेज की भी घोषणा की, जो किसानों के लिए एग्रीकल्चर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के लिए बहुत बड़ा उपयोगी सिद्ध होने वाला है। और प्रधानमंत्री जी का जो विजन है 2022 तक किसान की इनकम डबल करना है, तो इसके ऊपर हमने कई ऐतिहासिक फैसले लिए हैं। हम जो आज इस आर्थिक जगत से जुड़े हुए सभी जो बैठे हैं, उन सबसे मेरा एक ही कहना है कि हम सब मिलेंगे तभी किसान मजबूत होगा, और किसान मजबूत होगा तभी देश मजबूत होगा। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
Moving on to the next session, Dr. Rajiv Kumar, Vice Chairman Niti Aayog, discussed the strategic plans for leading agriculture post-COVID-19.
Your views on what lies ahead for agriculture. So far, it has really trailed industry. Its share in GDP has been contracting. Is this a decisive turn for the better in agriculture?
The farmers have been finally liberated, and they've got their independence to do what they like. With the promulgation of the ordinance on trading law, as well as on the amendment to the Essential Commodities Act that has been done, already we had done the electronic mandis, the e-nams are already in place. So now you will have in India with this one unified agricultural market. That's one big thing, so that there will be no state controls and borders and so on. And the farmers will can now be in direct contact with the agro processors, call them whatever, but let's give them the broad category. And I think this will see this should see a massive transformation of the agricultural sector in terms of so far only 10% of our output had been agro-processed. I think that sort of process will now see a big change. You'll see a huge growth of the logistics industry. The growth of logistics, warehousing, air conditioning chain, etc., will grow in a major way. So that will get a huge impetus. I think, but more importantly, also we'll get a big diversification of the agricultural sector. But I think farmers will now, be inclined to move towards export-oriented crops. What we also need at the moment in agriculture is one more set of change, reforms, and measures, which is to use digital technology to agriculture's advantage. And I think to that extent, Indian agriculture will begin to get transformed.
The series concluded with a panel on mitigating COVID-19, ensuring food security, support to farmers and livelihoods.
So I'd like to touch on a global perspective first. It is obvious that both life and livelihood are at risk from the pandemic on global food security due to negative impact of the COVID-19. So today we have esteemed is the panelists, also lots of expertise in Indian perspective. So we are very expected to very interesting with the experience. Mr. Dan, over to you.
I feel the COVID-19 is definitely challenging, but the test is for our ecosystem always. We are always challenged. Agriculture is always challenged by climate, by pandemic that we did not foresee, but it is here and probably here to stay to some extent. And our ecosystem must prove itself by being a strong ecosystem, by being a dynamic ecosystem, and by being able to implement a strategy into action.
India is the second highest producer of agriculture, 11th exporter, right? Our exports have plateaued. I believe that export competency is a clear indicator whether my farmer is doing well or not. If you're competitive on the world stage, you will do well in India also. So there is an opportunity opening up. We are moving away from the mandi system to people perhaps putting up businesses right across India. And I believe that new business model will come up, and all these things will remove the intermediaries and help the farmer get far higher income and make sure that the livelihoods of the people connected with the cluster are also protected.
I'd like to Mr. Simon.
You know, when India went into lockdown, what was very impressive to see was how quickly agriculture got back on its feet. And it's really to the support of the governments at all levels, federal, state, district, even in some villages, to make things happen. What I believe it is the right time to support and modernize agriculture. Given all that we know, the Indian economy will be struggling this year, and the bright spot in many ways, what you hear, is agriculture. And I do believe also, and Sanjeev was mentioning this, the government has taken some very important and bold steps in terms of the Essential Commodity Act, and really also talking about rural finance. These are the right approaches, because ultimately what we'll find is that farmers will have better income, and that will obviously lead to more consumption in rural areas, which will support the economy. But what I do see is that digitalization has received a tremendous boost during these COVID times. And this is, I think, where we really need to leverage the learnings. It's a large country. How can you reach your 130 crore farmers? You can only do it digitally.
Thank you very much.
All of these reforms have been long pending and are considered to be important. And many people at the policy levels indeed were working on it. The unusual times that we are seeing has only expedited the pace at which these reforms have got initiated and deployed. We see a lot of potential to unshackle Indian agriculture and take it to greater heights thanks to these reforms. We also foresee a lot of market-led benefits moving to the producer, because there is a lot of policy level enablers that have come about thanks to these reforms. Technology is going to play a significant role. One, on the production side, it will help farmers and their aggregation points, the FPOs, to understand what to produce, how much to produce, and how to produce. And on the demand side, technology will also help the consumers, the large-scale procurers of agri-commodities, what to procure, from where to procure. And finally, for the players between the producers and consumers like banks, financial institutions, advisory service providing institutions, all of them will be leveraging a lot of technology to make goods and cash flow from the producers and the consumers. So in our view, technology is going to play a significant role in agriculture.
Now, do I foresee recent agriculture policy reforms reconfiguring Indian agriculture? Definitely yes. If we see how last 3 months have unfolded for the agri sector, you'll see that when the pandemic hit the country and when the lockdown started, there was a lot of confusion, especially the first few weeks where the intrastate movement of goods, interstate movement of goods, reverse migration of labor, all of this distorted supply and even the consumption patterns. And these created big challenges for the agri ecosystem. But the clarification from the government and the interventions that followed, the week, 2 weeks after the lockdown started, they were extremely useful. In fact, thereafter, the bounce back that the agriculture ecosystem has seen is very fast because this is one of the sectors that government cannot allow to fail. Now, some of the policy reforms that have come in the last 30 days, especially the ones around opening the markets, are very enabling. Tying the markets to local mandis made sense when India was facing food security issues, but today allowing farmers and farmer producer organizations to work directly with buyers across the country is very powerful. The farmers may still work with the local aggregators because, mind you, aggregators add value in the agri value chains because they bring in diversified buyer base and they also take the risk of selling the entire produce irrespective of the quality mix. But the choice now has moved to the farmers, and that is very powerful. This will kind of push aggregators to add more value and value-added services. So all in all, these are great steps that will go a long way in making agri-value chains operate at higher rate.
If you look at our Microsoft, the mission statement that we have, right, we want to empower every organization and every person on this planet to achieve more. So what we've done is with our Azure FarmBeats platform, we've basically created an industry-specific cloud platform which basically provides rich practical insights from the data that we have aggregated. So what we've done is we have basically collected all of this data, aggregated it on a platform, and there are various data elements like the quality of soil, the humidity level, the vegetation, the water levels, and so on and so forth. We've collected these data points, data elements from multiple sources, from drones, from satellite imagery, and so on and so forth. And then we have applied vision and machine learning algorithms on top of this to build the data sets. And all of this basically has been made available to startups so that they can then leverage these rich data and data insights to build relevant solutions for the requirements of farmers and other stakeholders in the entire value chain. And our mission will continue to be to provide that platform, to provide those solutions so that startups can create more interesting data-driven solutions for agriculture in India and also take it globally.
Data science is used in agriculture today in a number of ways. It could be about the field data, the genetics of the seed, from drones, satellite imaging, the sensors that we are installing in the field. This is actually the future as we speak, reimagining agriculture as we know. Thanks to data science and machine learning, we can now track the flow of the pest. Knowing this is really powerful because it helps farmers to take preventive measures at the right time. Because of this data, we can now share this knowledge with our farmers and we can help them choose the seed which is more appropriate for their needs and also follow better management practices that are sustainable for them in the long run.